Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries.
Welcome, friends. This is Dane Rome, your announcer for today's Last Days Beacon program. Thanks for listening, and thanks for joining us. And just a reminder that these programs are supported by your gifts to this ministry. If you'd like to contribute to this ongoing faith ministry, which deals with Bible prophecy and current events, simply go to our website to contribute. Our website address is www.swpm.us. You'll find a donate link on the homepage. The website address again is www.swpm.us. And thank you for your prayers and support for this faith ministry. Well, on today's program, Dr. Schnitker hosts Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, who has just written a new book entitled The Deeper State. This book discloses for the first time behind-the-scenes super elites who promote a false panacea through promises of globalization, how globalists are taking over the world power centers, the instruments of global power, and the secret hands of the globe's evil puppet masters, and the spiritual aspects of an invisible war and its Achilles heel. I'll give you more information at the end of this program about how you can obtain this fascinating book. But for now, let's listen in as Dave Schnitker dialogues with Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis.
Thank you, Dane. It is a real pleasure to have with us via Skype today Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis. We'll call him Bob. Colonel McGinnis is the author of a timely new book entitled The Deeper State: Inside the War on Trump by Corrupt Elites, Secret Societies, and the Builders of an Imminent Final Empire. We'll just call it The Deeper State. I had the privilege of hearing Colonel McGinnis at the Blessed Hope Prophecy Forum in October, and I immediately knew that I had to have Bob on the program. I've never heard a military officer with such a comprehensive understanding of the deep state like Bob has. He has packaged this understanding in a book that is perhaps even more relevant than the day it was published, and it was not published very long ago. So Bob, welcome to the program today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, I appreciate your carving out time from your busy schedule to talk about your book and answer some questions to help our readers understand just what it is that you have put together. Well, let's start with just asking if you would share something about your background in the military and government service.
Okay. I graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1973, served 4 infantry divisions on 3 continents around the world, retired from the Pentagon in 93, joined the Family Research Council, rose to be the vice president for policy here in Washington. And then for the last 15 years, I've been back in the Pentagon. I teach at the Army War College as well as write policy and do a host of other things associated with the Pentagon and the military. And then, of course, I write books on the side and do some media on the side as well.
Well, great. Sounds like you have a rich background both in terms of military service, government service, as well as serving in a wonderful parachurch organization, the Family Research Council. I've had the privilege of interviewing Jerry Boykin, who I'm sure you know from the Family Research Council, and he is certainly a wide-awake patriot as well. Well, how did you become aware of the deep state?
Well, my mother lived and worked on Capitol Hill and in the Ford White House. And so while I was at West Point, I became very familiar with the inner workings of our nation's capital. And then, of course, subsequently over the years, I've worked on every aspect within the administrations, on Capitol Hill as an NGO, and elsewhere. And so it's to a certain degree, just by personal experience and observation. This time I've been in Washington a quarter of a century and have been directly involved in so much. And so the deep state is something that's rather intuitive to me. And, when I think of the deep state, a lot of people routinely view it as the political class, the people that we elect to Congress, and the people the president appoints to the bureaucracy. And of course, the bureaucracy in the federal government is millions deep, and the military itself, by the way, is a couple of million deep as well. But that's the political authority that we have out there, and that's what they exercise. It's the people behind them, and what I call the kind of the second layer of the deep state. Those are the political influencers. And of course, as an NGO, non-government organization, the Family Research Council, we were part of that. But there are literally thousands of lobbyists, some of which I've met, that work on Capitol Hill with the administration. There are a lot of deep-pocketed, wealthy people that try to influence what's going on. Certainly, the non-government organizations, the academic organizations, and so forth. This whole second layer are very influential, and it includes the media as well. And of course, the third layer in the deeper state are the unseen realm, the spiritual element. And arguably, Washington being the center of global power attracts the unseen realm, the evil realm, the demonic realm. And I've seen that, unfortunately, through a variety of experiences over the many years that I've been here in Washington. So that's how I define the deeper state in three layers. It's very real. I've seen it firsthand.
Okay. Well, when I introduced the book, I made a mistake. It is the deeper state. The deeper state, not just the deep state. And Bob, you've done a great job explaining what you mean by the deeper state. Now, I've had the opportunity to peruse your book. I can't say that I have memorized every word of it, but it is 372 pages in length, 17 chapters, several appendices. And let me ask this, Bob, what was it that possessed you to write such a massive tome?
Well, most Americans, I think, are rather naive about how their government operates. We sit out wherever we are, and we go about our lives, raise our children, go to our jobs, and hope that our government officials, those that we elect and those that serve our government, are doing the right thing for the right reasons. Unfortunately, based upon the experience that I outlined earlier, that's not the case. There are some, clearly, that are helping and doing the right things, but there's a large element out there that have not our best interest in mind. There are narcissistic people, there are people that are truly evil, there are people that have agendas that you and I don't support. And so I thought it was incumbent upon me, having been given so much experience here in Washington over the many years, that I'd at least help people to appreciate the complexity of what it is and how evil it can be and why it seems so unresponsive. And of course, the election of 2016 just kind of validated what I'd wanted to share. And since that time, and all the, ins and outs of the FBI, the Justice Department, and truly the deeper state on the nightly news, that it just validates that what God told me to do a year and a half ago to write this book makes sense, but it didn't altogether until now.
How do you intend this book to help the reader?
Well, like I said, I want people to understand how nefarious some of the players are in this. Of course, I go into explaining what globalism is and how that influences the direction of government. I talk about progressives like Hillary Clinton and Henry Kissinger and Rockefeller and others. I talk about secret societies, This is all the clutter behind the people out front, the people out front being the political people. And it's a complex arena. So I want people to appreciate, one, that it is complex, and two, that it's influenced by agendas that we do not necessarily endorse, especially for Christians who, would like to believe that, things are going to be done honestly and on the up and up, which is unfortunately not the case in many situations. We just have to, keep our eyes open, be prayerful that God will put wise men and women in positions of authority to correct the ills that have encumbered the government, especially in the last number of decades.
Well, Bob, that's a great introduction to the book. And friends, we are so privileged that Bob is actually going to be back with us for 2 additional programs where we can actually get into the weeds, so to speak, into the nuts and bolts of the content of the book. And you won't want to miss these programs. So friends, you are going to want to claim your copy of The Deeper State. I can hardly lift it. 17 chapters, 372 pages, with page upon page of footnotes. It's a very well-documented book. It's the fruit of, I'm sure, many decades of observation and research on the part of Bob McGinnis. I believe that this book has the potential of being a game changer on the order of magnitude of Gary Allen's 1971 classic, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. Some of the chapters include, we have 3 major sections in the book, and each section has several chapters, just some chapters from the first section: Globalism's Lexicon, Impact of Globalism, Scoping the Cold War, and What the World Public Understands About the Ideological Cold War, and Globalism Over the Horizon. And these are just the chapters from section 1 of the book. And now our announcer, Dane Rome, will share how you can obtain a copy of The Deeper State.
Thank you, Dr. Schnitker. Friends, you may obtain a copy of The Deeper State for a gift of $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Simply go to the homepage of our website, www.swpm.us. That website address again is www.swpm.us for your copy of The Deeper State. Well, please join us next week for another Last Days Beacon program brought to you by Southwest Prophecy Ministries. And until then, this is Dane Rome saying thanks for listening.